Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am delighted to have conversations around the world of men's mental wellness and whatever that means with whoever our guest is, and just having conversations around this subject with hopes of making the world a better place. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, head to hechangedit.com and you can see what's going on. Today, we've got another coach on, and I love these different coaches of different parts of life, different parts of modalities. Now, this one here, I want to throw out the disclaimer a little bit. She's a grief coach. She calls herself a resilience mentor, and you're going to see why when you hear her story. Now, her name is Camille Ellis. She has gone through a whole bunch of stuff in her life, and what that has led her to doing is taking some of these situations that she has gone through and turning them into ways that she can help people. She is a grief coach. She coaches on all sorts of different areas of life. If you're stuck, that's really the theme of it. If you're feeling stuck, this is a great episode to listen to because there'll be some good food for good thought. But I just want to do the sensitivity disclaimer. There is some talk of suicide. I wasn't sure if Camille was going to get into it today or not, but she did. She was very vulnerable, and I appreciate that vulnerability. Her son took his own life a number of years ago, and so it gave her the opportunity. And if you see her and listen to her, you can understand her spirit is really powerful in how positive it is and how she has framed the situation. And if you know of somebody who has gone through something like this, but grief in many ways has commonalities between, it could be a divorce, it could be a bankruptcy, it could be a job loss, it could be a loss of somebody else, right? And she talks about that here. And so it's not a negative conversation in any stretch of the imagination, but if you know somebody that's gone through something like this, it might be one that there might be a couple of nuggets out of there that might help them move towards their whatever rectification looks like for that situation for them. So that's what this is all about today. Camille Ellis, you can find her at yourcoachcamille.com. And I hope you enjoy the conversation we have today on heCast. Camille, I'm really grateful that you are walking on this planet right now. I really, really am. I'm grateful that you're here today. But when I hear somebody who is able to take hard situations that they have been through, the old adage is the idea of taking lemons and making lemonade. I look at what you have done and where you have aimed your life and where that aim came from. And I just want to say thank you very much for trying to make this world a better place. You're certainly doing it from a place of authority in many ways. As a life coach who focuses on grief, my first kind of discussion point or question for you, Camille, is where's the similarity? There's different types of grief that are out there, obviously, all sorts.
Right.
Do they have similarities to them?
Well, I think, yes, of course, grief is extremely heavy and consuming. So whether you're grieving from a lost loved one, or maybe it's a divorce, maybe you lost your job, maybe you got a health diagnosis, the grief that comes in is very consuming, right? You get stuck in a place of misery, and it's a very slippery slope. And so it's very similar in many ways, but of course, with the death of somebody, there's, a process that goes on, and it can be very repetitive, and we're not really taught how to manage grief, right? We're taught to be miserable. And that's what we know. Like, something terrible happens, you just go and be miserable now. And that happens naturally. We don't even have to be told, but what can we do to help ourselves and to be, what I want to say is better because of what we're feeling. So the grief is going to be bad, and that's okay. But to push it away.
That's an acceptance kind of a statement there, right?
Right, because you typically want to push it away because it hurts terribly, right? It's like I can't have lost this loved one or my marriage or my job or whatever. You want to push away like this is not happening right now, but it absolutely is happening. And then you want to die. Basically, you feel so terrible. You want to die. You're like, I don't want to feel this. Let me escape this right now. And you can't. You have to feel it as a human in your human experience. And if you don't feel it, you're pushing it away. And if you're pushing it away, it's going to come back harder. And it happens every single time.
So, we hear there are certain, I don't know what you want to call it, platitudes or certain things that you might hear. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Right.
Now, when somebody's going through something like this, are those helpful? Because I hear about these. Another one is you have to learn to sit in it. And I mean, there are so many things that are out there in the ether that we hear and that maybe we cling on to, whether it's just something that we heard and we say, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Is there anything that we're supposed to do when we're going through, a recent grieving period of some sort?
Well, I think for me, it's all about mind management. And I encourage all my clients to manage their thought process with what's going on, because when the grief hits, you're thinking terrible thoughts. And it depending on why you're feeling the grief, right? If you lost a job, you're going to have thoughts of, I suck, I'm a failure, what now? All the desperation seeps in, right? Mm-hmm. And if you've lost a loved one, you go into, this can't be happening, right? This, especially somebody you didn't expect, right? Like we expect to lose our parents or grandparents and we still grieve, but we almost started the process of grieving before they died because we expect them to die before we do. Right. But with somebody you don't expect and they suddenly die, or maybe it was even a sickness, I don't know, or an accident, it doesn't matter. It's shocking. And so you're having to process something really, really hard, and you may not be able to. Some people can, and some people cannot, right? So for those that can't, that's what I'm here for. I want to help them move through their grief with love and get back to their authentic selves. And their authentic self is actually going to be a whole lot different than what it was before the passing.
Okay, because they know more and they're more of a whole person. They've stretched themselves a little bit. Like they've done more, for lack of a better word, they've done more reps. And because they've done more reps, whether they know it or not, they now have a strength that they didn't have before. Am I hearing that right?
Exactly. Well, and hopefully that's the case. I mean, some people may come back, like they may be able to find the grace in it all, but they still may carry bitterness, right? So it really depends on how you want to process it and think about it. For me, it was always a matter of wanting to be wiser, right? My goal is always to be a wiser person, even as a child. How can I be smarter about this? It didn't matter. So I have to really step outside of the situation and look at it to see how can I make this a process of learning, because that's what life is. It's a lesson, right? We're all learning lessons as we live our journey.
Have you always been this logical?
I think so, but it just has gotten a little bit more extreme as I've gotten older, and then becoming a coach, it became very logical. That's why I'm a coach. It's so simple. Why can't we do this naturally without thinking about it? But we actually have to be very focused and deliberate and make decisions and choose exactly how we want to be. And even with my skills, I still get caught up in emotions, right? It's very easy. Sure. It's very human of us all to do it.
Sure. That's universal. I would submit that for, it's 99% universal. There's probably a 1% outlier of some sort, but that's a universal thing. But I think the difference is that you've learned tools.
Yes.
You've given yourself some skills, tools, insights, whatever you want to call it, to help you you've been equipped with. It's funny, you hear sometimes people who the mechanic who's the best mechanic in the world, but their car is a jalopy. You hear about that sometimes.
Yes.
And many times, I guess where I'm coming from is that many times we are our own, best client. If you're in the coaching
100%.
business, the skills, but that gives relatability, right?
Well, yeah, because if I'm not managing myself, how the heck am I going to be able to help you or anybody else, right? Because I'm not in the pattern of breaking things down because I'm not doing it for myself. So like I was in kind of a funky mood for a couple of days, anyhow, there was a lot going on and I just was really looking outside of me for answers. And I felt a lot of dread for about 2 or 3 days. Right. And on maybe it was the third day I woke up and I went, okay, this is ridiculous. Do it now. Let's get through this. And I just started writing all the thoughts I was having down and looking at them and seeing that if I just flipped that thought just ever so slightly, and sometimes it's just one word in the sentence we're telling ourselves, then we can see, like, I was really looking outside of me for answers instead of looking within me for the answers. And it was tormenting me. And once I realized that and flipped it, then I felt really empowered. And I was like, okay, today's going to be a great day because I'm just going to make stuff happen, right?
Wouldn't it be great if the moment that dread showed up, we had just jumped into gear to do that? Like,
yes,
so many of us,
yes, let's skip it, right?
Well, I mean, how many times do we sit there like it's the discomfort thing, right?
Right.
Where we put up with discomfort. We put up with discomfort, whether we're aware or it's subconscious. We put up with it. And then suddenly, you know, if we're sitting on a tack, but it hasn't penetrated my pants yet. And then, and then suddenly it penetrates the skin. Finally, now I'm going to move. But what if I would have just made the decision to move the moment that discomfort started? And one of the things that I'm hearing from you, you know, the idea of repetitive thoughts when we're grieving or we're going through something that's really, really difficult or trying to let go of something, the repeating, cycling thoughts are the enemy, because that's the thing that continually, that's the momentum that we're starting to build, right?
Right.
If I'm hearing you right. And so one of the things that we need to learn how to do is interrupt those thoughts. And do you have any insights as to that?
Well, yeah, I think it's something you have to practice every single day. So you start your day with the thoughts that are going to help give you the momentum you need for your life in that day, in that moment. So you're being really positive. You're going to see the gratitude versus, you know, the lack, right? Because we can all easily feel like we don't have enough. That's normal. And so then we're in a scarcity place of mind. Excuse me. But when you can see everything that you do have, right, then you feel better and it's more empowering, and you're grateful and you're in peace, right? You're not struggling. You're not chasing your tail. You're not on that hamster wheel, you know, wearing yourself out. So it's really like choosing. And I always have said, you know, hey, if, you know, Joe Blow over here can be calm and peaceful, then why can't I?
Yes.
Right. So I'm going to work
comparison.
Yeah, you know, it's like, I'm just going to work on being really cool, like that person over there that I'm watching, be really cool about something. And I'm going to practice that until it comes natural to me. So it means giving yourself a lot of patience and space to be that version of yourself you want to be. But you have to know what you want to be.
I mean, you talk about empathy for yourself or patience for yourself. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard this on this show and the hundreds of episodes we've done. I mean, where I love this example. Like, I think about if my best friend is going through something.
Yes.
And it might be something that's even their fault. You know, they may have been villainous in some way, shape, or form, but now they're going through the ramifications of that.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna really go and say that maybe the blame is even 100% theirs, right?
Yeah.
But they're going through this and they're going through the results of it. And I think about how I treat that person. I think about, you know, if they're my best friend, I think about the empathy, the unconditional love, the ways that I feel about them. Imagine if we could feel that way about ourselves.
Right.
And I mean, that's on their worst day. Yeah. And I mean, how many times are we really in our worst day? It's typically not super often. You know, the worst, you know, groundbreakingly horrible day doesn't happen all the time. Well, if you can be that way on somebody's worst day, imagine how we could treat ourselves if we had that patience. Is there a trick in your mind to giving ourselves that space, that patience, that empathy for ourselves?
Yes. You have to be kind. You have to love yourself. You have to give yourself, you know, a pat on the back when you do something right or get something finished, and look at yourself and give yourself a compliment. At least one compliment a day.
Do you have an example of that? Do you have an example of what a compliment for yourself might be, or
well, it depends. I don't know. I think women and men are a little bit different. Women are really, really hard on their looks. Look at all the Botox and fillers and things out there that women are just filling themselves up with. And I think that's really sad, because that just is a sign of insecurity, right? Now, personally, I don't do that because I choose not to. But my sister does. And, you know, and she's a beautiful lady and she looks amazing. But I think she'd look more amazing if she was more natural.
Right.
So that's my choice, right? That's what I choose. So when I look in the mirror and I see that, yes, I have aged and I have wrinkles, I still say, you're beautiful with your wrinkles. Like
Mm-hmm.
see what's right instead of what's wrong. Because when you see what's wrong, like that's all you're going to see. And you're going to be really uncomfortable with it. But, I said to my nieces when they were really young and they were super self-conscious because they were teenagers. And I said to them, I want you to think about the people you love most in this world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the skinny ones. It's not the beautiful ones. It's the happy ones. So I want you to work on being really happy instead of torturing yourself. If you're happy, you are the most attractive person in the room.
And you can aim yourself to being happy. Like again, I don't want to go down the path of the plastic toxic, the buzzword, of course, being
Yeah.
toxic positivity. I don't mean it like that, but there are ways, parts of your disposition where you can actually decide
Yes.
to be happy. You can aim your attitude, right?
Right. So being a grief coach,
Yep.
and my reason for becoming to become a grief coach is because I lost my youngest son when he was 18 years of age in 2010, and he died by suicide. And I had to accept that, and I had to do it and still be the best version of myself. And so the way I did it, and this is a great example because this was really hard. I mean, this is the worst thing that you can imagine happening in your life,
It's
right?
brutal. It's probably most parents,
Every
worst
parent's
kind of
nightmare.
It's
And I had
it's
that.
brutal.
Oh,
It's absolutely
great.
brutal.
Yeah. I was like, great. Now I have to live this nightmare. Okay. I had all the negativity as well. But when I started processing it, I found so much love and gratitude that he lived. So my focus was on his life and not his death. And I was so grateful that I got to be the chosen one to be his mom, and that he got to be my son. And that is what I focused on. I didn't focus on the fact, my selfish thoughts, and they are very selfish, that I lost my son, that I was a parent who lost a child, that now
Right.
I would grieve for the rest of my life. These were all very selfish thoughts about me.
It's like
Instead,
martyrdom or victimhood,
yes,
right?
and I hate that about, I never want that. I don't appreciate it in myself. I don't
Yep.
appreciate it in other people. So I
Right.
was like, okay, so now how can I love this? And I loved it by just knowing that it was a gift. And I could have not have ever had him, but I'm so glad I did. And if I had to lose him a million times over, I would. And so it was just a matter of choosing to love the process of his journey. And I got to see it from beginning to end.
Wow, talk about a radical mind shift to go from now the victim, like again, whatever philosophical metaphor this could be from. It's a biblical one, but it's also in Buddhism. It's a different place. The idea of the wide path versus the narrow path being the better one, the harder path being so easy. You're in that situation, so easy, the slippery slope, whatever analogy you want to use, the wide road,
Yes.
that you could easily be that martyr, that victim for years, decades before you discover that truth. In dealing with people who are going through loss, obviously there's time to process, to learn, to reflect on what's going on and where your direction is going to be. Can people turn away from that? If it's martyrdom or victimhood, whatever it is, can they turn from that immediately? Is that something that people can do right away? Or do we get stuck in our own heads and think, no, I need to be in this place for a certain amount of time before I start interrupting that stuff?
A lot of people identify with that. And so they're comfortable. So they don't want to change. And they're totally comfortable with being uncomfortable. But it is human nature when the discomfort gets so severe, like you said with the tack, that we eventually change.
Yeah.
And I think my change happened quickly because I already had the tools in my toolbox, right? To know how to start making a change. And my drive was that if I let my life be ruined because of losing my son, then it was like my son's life wasn't as important. Like I put a scar on his mark of his life, like he damaged me. And I didn't want that. I wanted everything to thrive because he lived. So that meant I had to.
That's Easier said than done, I think. And maybe that's me putting limitations on thoughts or whatever. It seems like that would be such a challenge. And I think many times the fear of a situation is worse than actually going through the situation. The anticipation, sometimes we can build it up in a way that, so even me
Yes.
catching myself there saying that sounds easier said than done. But when you're there and you want to go through it, or you not want to go through, but you want to get better as you're going through it, I guess, that decision can be made right away.
Yes. And that's what happened with me, because I was in the victim mindset, suffering in my misery and my grief, and really feeling like I would never in my life ever smile again, because this is so sad. My smiles would forever be fake. Nothing would be genuine.
Yeah.
And as I sat there creating all of this misery in my head with all these horrible thoughts,
Right.
I got clarified that that was a bunch of BS. None of that is true. And I was actually going to be happier because of the sadness that I felt, that I would have more joy knowing the difference, the contrast, right? And for the sake of who I am and who I want to be and how I want to honor my son and his life, I was going to be really amazing. And that's what I took to do.
That's a radical choice.
And you know what I did? I went from crying to laughing, because I knew in my heart it was true. And that I was just going to be like so loving. And this was so beautiful, that this is a journey that I got to experience. And now I'm on my journey. What do I want to do with it? Who do I want to be? And it's super deep. You go deep into your heart and your soul, and you decide. And then you go do it.
When you help people go through stuff like this, and I mean, like you said, I'm grateful that you said it could be a death of a loved one. This is one of the most like intimate ones that you could think of. Your example, a divorce, a bankruptcy, loss of a job, loss of identity, whatever that is. Do you find that men and women deal with it differently?
I think, well, for me, my experience, I raised boys. And so I've seen a lot of men in their emotions, and they really don't know how to express them. They're not really taught. And now I have a 3-year-old grandson who's struggling with his emotions. Same thing, right? So it's teaching them, right? And maybe he's just very sensitive, and so are a lot of men, right? But it's teaching them, like I tell them, sometimes we have really big feelings and sometimes they're small, and it's okay to cry and talk at the same time. Who learns that, right? I had to teach myself that. Like, I want to be able to cry and I want to be able to talk while I'm crying. That's not exactly easy, by the way, but it was
Do
like,
you get guys who are like, I'm off this train immediately as soon as you suggest that. Like, is that stigma, that stereotype that's been around so much about what men are supposed to be? Do you have to break through those barriers, or does sometimes the event create such a cut in somebody's psyche that they're there at that point and they can be coachable towards that?
Yes, I feel like everybody wants that, right? Not everybody can do it because they get stuck, but everybody wants to be their authentic human self in this journey. They really do. And when they're struggling, it's because they're going against that grain and it doesn't feel good, right? It's not who they are. So it's really about finding your way. Like, what if your life is perfect? As weird and crazy as it may be, you're doing all these things that are not like anybody else, but it's perfect, right? You just have to go with that. And I think if we could all look at it that way and grow with it, just like, with an emotional grandson, or my ex-husband or my boys, right? We're dealing with things. And I wish I had known the skills I know today. Maybe I could have helped my son more, but obviously that wasn't meant to happen because it didn't. So it's not something like I don't do the shoulds and the coulds. It's just I've learned so much.
I get that. Now let's go through, you guys who are listening to this, there are some guys, we've had guys on the show who have talked about kids that they've lost, sometimes to illness, sometimes to other ways. And they talk about, I'm curious what your thought is on, like the dark humor that sometimes can show up where there's an acceptance there, but like it's expressed through through humor that wouldn't necessarily be acceptable in a grocery store, if you know where I'm coming from. How they take that as a coping mechanism, things like that. I'm curious if you've studied up on anything like that at all.
I'm really accepting. So I'm not a judgmental person. So when people are expressing themselves, maybe I don't appreciate it. Maybe I don't find it respectful, but it's like who they are, right? We all come from a different culture, a different way of speaking. People find me to be a little abrasive sometimes because I'm so straightforward. I'm very black and white with the way I address things. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't have to. And I don't have to like everybody either. But I don't want to judge them for it.
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, I think it's safe to say that personally, I believe we live in a society right now that judges way too much. It's like a game of hot potato, right? They're
absolutely,
oh, it's you did everything, or you're this terrible person with this past or whatever, and the judgmental thing. I mean, that's to me a ridiculous thing, because what it's causing us to do is not put anything on ourselves. It's the opposite of taking responsibility, right?
Nobody's taking responsibility. It's like, what if you did take responsibility? And what if you balance that responsibility? See, now I go the other way. I always take responsibility because that was the way I was raised. I was raised that it was always my fault. So this is a really negative pattern that I have. So
you're taking blame. You're not taking responsibility. You're putting the blame on yourself.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, it was my fault. I did that.
Yeah.
So, there's a balance in everything. So now I'm learning how to take pause and really balance it out. Is it my responsibility? Should I take that blame, right? And I just balance it. And then I neutralize the situation because I know how to do that.
Sure. Well, and taking I want to be clear on this for the listeners, the viewers. Taking responsibility for something and taking the blame for things, those are two different things, right? Like,
I do it all. I will do it all naturally. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, that's because I was raised to be a people pleaser. A lot of us have. It's very common.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of guys living, again, we said it before the camera went on. There's a lot of guys living quiet lives of desperation because they're desperate to be pleasing everybody. They're desperate to be, being that provider, that person that has all the answers, that has all of the solutions, and resentment
and I think
sometimes will grow in them. Go ahead.
I think for men, it can be even harder than for women because society teaches them they're supposed to have all the answers, right? And they're supposed to be able to do all these things and provide and blah, blah, blah. We could go on and on. So there's a lot of pressure. And by the way, they are not taught how to be emotional through all of this pressure, right? So it can be devastating for men, right? If they're not providing all of this stuff, they go down really fast and they have these low self-esteems. And then, things just start crumbling around them. And it's really sad. And I've seen it in so many. And I'm just like, wow, what if you get to be vulnerable? What if it's okay if that didn't work out and it failed? So what? Failures are not bad. They're learning lessons.
Sure. I feel like you personally in your niche or your style of coaching could be really beneficial for a large percentage of men that are going through a griefful time at some sort, because I think many times certain men will have a tendency to be able to get vulnerable with a woman. But I look at you and you do have that straightforward, logical edge where you have a knowledge tether that people can grab onto, not just an emotional tether, not just somebody who can do, some cry therapy and things like that. It's not that. You've got actual bona fide, logical, logistical solutions. And I think that many times men, that is what they're looking for. They're looking for, okay, give me a task, give me a list of steps that I can do to start on the road to not feeling this way anymore.
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like one step. Like, I know my ex-husband got laid off a few times in his career, and every time he would get so disappointed and depressed, and it just killed me, right? I was just, because again, I'm not the victim type, right? But every time he'd come home and he'd tell me, and of course I'd be like, wow, okay, this changes everything in this moment in time. But God, I'm excited. What's next? Because something's coming.
Wow.
Right? And I would tell him that something's coming. What's next? I'm excited. I want to see like something really great coming next. I don't want to see a loss.
Man, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's instinctual, if it's just hardwired in, but the idea of us disappointing our family is one of those things that is just, it's so to the core, you know, of you talk about fears, anticipated fears. Oh my gosh, disappointing the family. It's very, very few things I can think of most. And the idea of a response where if we're coming home and we've got disappointing news, to hear the reframe of, wow, that's exciting. What's
Yeah,
next is a wow, what a like, that's a phenomenal example of how we can change the way that we think in the moment. We literally can
exactly.
decide in that moment how we're going to react. But the trap is we start reacting, going down that negative path for a little while, and then it becomes momentum, and then it becomes, like, in some cases, our personality. It could shape our entire personality if we continue those patterns forever. But what if we didn't start down with that pattern? What if we
Yeah.
started from a complete reframe? And that's a powerful tool right there you just kind of shared.
Well, and I think we can do it all the time. Like I always say, I don't, am I allowed to say a swear word?
Curse all you like here. Yeah.
Okay. I always want to be a badass.
Yeah.
So when I'm facing
I'm
something,
just going to tell you, Camille, I'm sorry. Ass is a bit, it's a mild swear right there.
I
I'm just
know,
going to say that. I don't know if you got another one coming, but that's mild. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
I would
you are a
start
badass.
soft.
Continue, please.
I would start softly, but I wanted to get permission. But anyhow, you know, I always go, if I want to be a badass and I've got to face a challenge, something really uncomfortable, and I've got to do something, you know what? I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I
Absolutely.
don't think about it. I want to give everybody a little lesson in life. If you're thinking about it, you are actually spending the same amount of energy it takes to do it. So if you just do it, you'll get it done and you will save yourself all that energy of thinking about it over and over again. So once you make the decision, you just take action. And this
So
is so helpful.
I want to be clear. The decision is
Is
the same amount of thought power as, like, obviously, if I'm going to start doing jujitsu, you know, not doing it and doing it are very different things, the action themselves, but the mindset of pondering it and focusing and ruminating on it versus making the decision is the same amount of brain power. But if I make that decision and just push myself over the edge, now I'm doing something that's going to benefit me, in this
right.
case, physically.
Well, and it's just like, you know, every day, you know, you go to your workout. The workouts are easy because sometimes I don't want to go, right? And if I don't want to go, I think I don't want to go. And I really don't want to go after thinking I don't want to go. Right. And it's,
Yes.
I start like kind of bringing up some dread, like I don't have time. And I start bringing up evidence of why I shouldn't go work out because there's all this other stuff I could get done instead.
Justify.
Right?
We're good justifiers, aren't we,
Oh my
Camille?
God. I'm so good at this. So the other day I work out a minimum of 3 days a week, but I try to go for 4 or 5. Right. So I was on my way to go work out in my car and I realized I had not yet once thought about working out that morning until I was on my way driving there. And that's the way it should be when we need to get something done. You just you don't need to think about brushing your teeth. You just brush them. So it's the same thing. Just go do it. You've already made the decision. That's the first thing you do. Make the decision, then take action.
Okay, so the people right now who are listening to this that are suffering in some sort of griefful state, if there is such thing as a griefful state, so they're dealing with grief, whatever that looks like, whether it's, and some of it, like you think about divorce as an example. I mean, sometimes it's anticipation. Sometimes it's, hey, I know where the puck is going. I know this is going to happen, but I haven't yet, you know, gone to chase after it. I haven't made that decision or whatever. Or maybe that decision is happening and they're in the muck. They're in the place. It might be even alone. They might not have told anybody they're going through this grief. They're alone in it.
Right.
You know, the decision, you're saying, let's make a decision to move forward. Let's make a decision to focus on a solution, figure out some sort of a solution and move in that direction. And let's do it quickly, as opposed to planning it out, making it perfect, making it all like make the decision and start moving it. And even if it's messy, just start moving forward.
Well, it depends. You know, every situation's a little bit different.
Okay.
You know, things like going to the gym, you can quickly decide not to think about it.
Sure.
But since I am divorced and I divorced from a 27-year relationship, I did think about it because that was a long relationship to end. Mm-hmm. But in the end, after thinking about it, I actually decided to love myself instead of the marriage because the marriage wasn't serving me. The marriage was killing me. And I never gave myself the privilege to say me first. So that was
what would
a
it look
really
like right now for the guys who are listening to this? What would it look like right now, whatever you're dealing with, if you were able to actually say me first, and not in a way where you're going to hurt anybody? That's not what it's about. I'm not being selfish. I'm saying to protect yourself, to love yourself, to radically love yourself and be kind to yourself, as you talked about earlier. What would that look like? What would it look like? Like, what would that,
well,
you know,
for
what would
me,
it look like to look at yourself?
Yeah, for me, it's always asking, especially coming from a people-pleasing background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying not to be the people pleaser. I really ask myself, is this what I want? Or am I pleasing somebody else? You know, do I want to be in this marriage? You know, that was a big one. Do I want to be in this marriage? There are many things in this marriage that are not working for me. And I'm 60 years old. Mm-hmm. And I maybe, hopefully, have at least 30 years left in my life. Mm-hmm. Do I want to keep doing this for 30 more years? Or do I want to give myself the opportunity to be happy? Me first. I want to be happy.
Everybody asks themselves these questions. What if everybody was able to be honest with themselves and ask themselves that question?
Yeah. I still had to be incredibly brave and just take action, right? That was really scary. I had no idea what I was walking into, and I went through a whole roller coaster ride of emotions. Mm-hmm. But I have zero regrets. So, and I always say, whatever you're do it with love. So I didn't want to divorce and hate. I wanted to divorce and love. Like, I didn't hate my husband. I wish him the very best, but I do not want to be married to him anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's really clarifying everything for myself so that I can be the better version of me.
That's a hard sentence to say out loud. Or, you know, again, I don't want to put limits on things. Again, I'm really trying to work on my reactive versus proactive language and stuff. So to me, the anticipation of a sentence like that is daunting. And being able to say something like that, when you think of the ramifications on the other side, if there's a guy who's in that state right now going, yeah, okay, I don't want this. And I know I don't want this, but if that were the case, what would all the unknowns that are there and the fears start to come in and whatnot. And the assurance that everything's going to be okay and it's all going to work out is sometimes very far away from people. And I can imagine during grief-ful times as well, that's clouded many times, that sentiment.
Well, again, it's a choice. And you can always look at the evidence in your life. You have the evidence of all the successes you've already made, you know, all the emotional crises you've gotten through. And there will be more because you're human. You're going to have them. So it's really just kind of a deciding, like, I'm going to allow myself to feel my emotions, number one, and I'm going to identify them. So the other day I was coaching a client and he said he was jealous. And I said, are you sure you're jealous? Or do you think maybe you're just feeling a little envy? And he had to take pause. He goes, I never considered that. And I go, there's a difference. Like, really be aware of what are you feeling? A lot of the times we say we hate something when we just really don't like it. Or, we think we're angry when we're frustrated. Like, what is it you're actually feeling? Because once you can really get into what you're feeling, you can start dealing with that a little bit better. And I'm going to tell you, everything that's going on is coming from your head. So if this is up here disturbing you, this thought in your brain, put it in your heart and see if it's a true thought.
Oh, wow. What a fantastic interrupt.
Yeah. My thought of I will never smile again. Big fat lie.
Yep.
But I put it in my heart and I was like, no, I'm going to smile. I'm going to smile at puppies and kitties and children, Like, you start finding the evidence of why that's such a lie.
Right. It's a toxic thought. Like that's, and it really what it comes down to is the fear. It's what if I don't ever smile again? But then we turn it into something. So really it's you're not feeling despair for losing a smile. You're really feeling a fear of uncertainty is really what it is, right? Like again, and I don't know if that's exactly it, but I'm just trying to use your example. The idea is allowing yourself to feel the emotion. I love that because you're not pushing it away. Because if you push it away, like you said earlier, it'll come back bigger. So don't push it away. Allow yourself to feel it, but then analyze it. And I mean, that's the trick, right? Because you're
Yeah.
giving yourself the pause. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know about you. There's a book that I absolutely fell in love with. I have a granddaughter who is my everything. She's my world. And she's my favorite thing on the entire planet. My favorite noun is my granddaughter. And when she was 18 months old, she went through, we went down to BC Children's Hospital because she had a tumor the size of my fist behind her tailbone. She's 8 now. She's great. She's cancer free. All is good. But that was one of those times.
Yeah.
And I think about what you just said, the idea of, I read a book at that time by a guy called Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. And The Power of Now is a phenomenal example of how our brain is not our identity. And it shows that. What you're doing here, in my mind, is almost the exact same thing. If you can be aware for a second and you say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to feel this because for the express purpose of saying, I want to identify or analyze what it is exactly that I'm feeling. Because it's coming across as this fear of never being able to smile again. But now really what it comes down to is, that is a sort of a secondary thing. It grew from this idea, whatever this idea was.
Right.
Well, now we're just by doing that exercise, even if it's 3-4 seconds to do that, we're now in a different zone completely where we have stopped our brain from running like this. And we've become present and aware. And now we can then navigate that. Am I hearing it right?
Yeah, because it's changing your perspective, right? You're seeing it from different angles. And now you're seeing, I get to actually choose the perspective I want to look at this. What does this really mean? What do I want to make it mean? We make shit mean stuff that it doesn't mean. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's what tears us up and throws our brains out of whack and so forth. So when you bring it into your heart or write it in a journal is so great, because then you can see like your sentences are really disturbing you and you're creating emotions for yourself that are unnecessary and slowing you down. Right. Life isn't meant to be happy all the time. This is what everyone needs to realize. If we were happy all the time, number one, you'd be bored to tears, but you'd have no appreciation for it because you'd have no context.
No context at all.
Yeah, right. So when we're going through difficult times, it is our time to rise, learn, and develop ourselves. That's all it is. So who do you want to be? Do you want to develop into somebody who like really can maybe impress yourself and others or make the situation better, by just choosing wisely? And you're choosing to respond and not react.
Like that's something, what you just said there is such a powerful kind of it's almost a totem. I'm going through something. So my goal, like it's almost be a life motto is when the water starts to come over the bow and the storms are really, really coming over, I choose to rise, learn, and develop through this process. How can I rise? How can I develop? Or how can I learn? How can I rise? What can I learn? And how can I use it to develop myself? My gosh, again, you are like the reframe queen. You are really good at taking things and reframing them. And again, you took it from a place of experience, and I mean, I don't diminish that whatsoever. But you don't strike me as somebody, you strike me as somebody, if they treat you as a victim, you're going to kind of throw that back at people. I feel like you don't, I feel like that is just something you just want to keep away from you. Is that a result? Is that, you obviously grew up as a pleaser, like you said. At what point in your life did you realize, whoa, hold on, no, don't put that victim stuff on me. I'm going to reframe things and work towards solution as best I can. Do you remember at what point that switch flipped, or was it not was it just a gradual evolution?
It was definitely baby steps, but I think I was a victim in my mind for a lot of years, right? Life was not fair. That's a victim. Life wasn't fair. And I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I was not successful enough, and nobody likes me. How about that? I went through years with those kind of thoughts, and they're really common, by the way. So when I finally got sick and tired of it, and that's what it was. I got sick and tired of it. This feels like crap. I don't want to feel like this. And I actually removed myself from my environment, went to a totally new environment, was around people I didn't know, right? And I learned a lot about myself doing that. So that was really good. And I was a teenager. I was an older teenager, but I was a teenager. So it was really good. It was like, oh, look, people do like me. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm funny. Oh, interesting. And people are attracted to me. So I must be kind of pretty, but I still wasn't smart enough, by the way. I didn't allow myself to be smart enough for a while.
You had a high bar. You had a high bar that you hadn't gotten over yet. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So, it was baby steps. And now I'm like, I still have the bad talk that can happen. Like, oh, I screwed up, or, I suck, or whatever I might say to myself. And when I do it, I correct it. And I just have to say, okay, no, you don't. Now you're going to figure it out. You're not an idiot. Like how many of us say, oh, I'm just an idiot, and we say it so like it's okay, but our brain is listening to us. Yeah. So it's really important to speak correctly to yourself and say the right thing. Like, no, I'm not an idiot. I just didn't know how to do that now, but I'm going to learn now.
I appreciate where you're coming from. You talk about turning 60. I just turned 50. I think every time you have a zero birthday, many times, many people reflect maybe in perhaps a different way. And one of the things that I said to myself, the things that I love that I've accomplished versus the shortcomings and whatnot, whenever I think of those dread thoughts, it's like, yeah, but the universe brought me to this point. Yeah. Life has let me get to this point here. Yeah. And I've gone half a century. So maybe it's time to actually have faith that every time a situation comes up with, not that it's not going to bring emotion with it, but we'll get through it. And that's a very, again, a stone cold logical. I can't get over how logical you are and analytical you are about this stuff here. Do you get surprised by any of the clients or the situations that you deal with, or do you find that really at the end of the day, many of the puzzles, while individual pictures might be different, the pieces themselves fit in similar ways?
A lot of times I'll surprise myself just with an idea that I come up in the spur of the moment. And I think, oh, that was really clever. I love that part of me. And I just want to tap into it a little bit more often,
Sure.
And if I can be clever in my work and help you get through a really sticky, uncomfortable place, then of course, everybody's winning.
Right.
So
I was more referring to when I asked that, and I appreciate the answer, because I think all of us, boy, wouldn't it be cool if we could be that present of mind as we're going through these. I was more talking about your clients, though, your clientele. When you deal with people's situations and they pop up in front of you here, do you find that many, if not most, of these situations, while individual, have similar results? Is there something that you teach? 80% of the time, 90% of the time?
Some people won't change. So I can't help them.
Okay.
Yeah. And then other people.
So they refuse. They refuse to work on themselves. They put the wall up. They put the.
Right. They're still blaming whatever's out there. Right. Instead of just going. And it's very confusing. So even I think that there's fear of losing that, the pain. Right. Because then what do? Right. They don't have the identity of what it would be like outside of the pain. Right. I had a client whose adult son was murdered, and she couldn't get past murdered. Oh, and it was the murder part that was the problem. And she would yell at me in our sessions that he was murdered. And I finally asked her, what are you making murder mean? Because murder seems to be your problem. Right. At the end of the day, you and I are no different, because we had a life that died, that was really close to us. Right. It doesn't matter how they died. The death came and the life ended. Now what? But she was over here hung up on murder, and she couldn't release it.
I would imagine that would be a similarity with a lot of us. There's one little hang up. Yeah. We're moving forward, whatever it is that we're moving forward with or trying to move forward with. And then we get hung up on one thing, and then that thing becomes the repeater. It's like the skip of the record, right? You got to take the needle and put a penny on the needle so it'll go past that skip. And it feels like that's a huge part of what it is that you do, is you coach people to find those skips in our lives.
If you want to, right? If she wanted to, she would have been able to answer me when I said, what are you making murder mean? And
Right.
she couldn't. She said, I don't know. And I said, it's a really good question for you to try to find an answer to. Murder means to me something maybe different than it would mean to you. But for me,
Right.
what it means is it's a violation that somebody took somebody without permission.
Right. Okay. So that's where okay. So in that particular case, that's where the hang up is. And the way that you just said it right there, probably in my opinion, from what I'm hearing these things, I mean, obviously there's complex things that we get stuck on, but at the end of the day, if we can identify what we're stuck on,
Right.
again, you're going back to identifying or analyzing what it is that we're feeling. It's the same thing in that regard, really.
Yeah, it
And then
is.
that gets rid of it. Once you identify it, then
You have
it's clear.
clarity.
You have
Yeah,
clarity.
you have clarity. And you're like, oh, okay, now I can tell the story with clarity and I can give you the emotional roller coaster ride, but I can show you how it comes to a slow, smooth end.
Oh man, I just appreciate the insights that you have. When you do coaching, now you live in Cali, right? Are you in
Yes.
SoCal or are you in Northern California?
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah. I'm in Northern California
Yeah.
and in Santa Cruz. I don't know if you know where Santa Cruz is. It's
Oh
about,
man, one of my favorite things. I used to be a corporate trainer for Costco in another life, years and years and years ago, and I used to train the Bay Area. And
yeah.
I would always make sure I didn't fly when I was down there. I would do Roseville and then all the different places, and it was always great driving down that highway. That highway
Yeah.
from San Francisco down to Santa Cruz and down. My
So
word, what a
beautiful.
gorgeous place! You live in a very beautiful place.
I
Have you been there a
do.
long time?
Yeah. I grew up here.
Oh
So
wow.
I know I've been
Okay.
very fortunate. I moved up here when I was 10 with my family. So I grew up here, left for a little while and came back. But it's a beautiful place and I am grateful every day that I live here. Although it is
So
probably the most expensive places to live.
yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I from a fiscal standpoint, I do not envy my California brethren right now. Boy, oh boy, it's
I'm
not a
telling you.
cheap place to live.
Yeah.
And man alive, I hope that I hope some clarity can hit your guys' economy and all of that stuff sooner than later. Boy, because California is such a wonderful place. Now that being said, you've obviously got your practice down there, but do you do remote practice as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
I work.
good. Okay, so your
Yeah.
website isn't just for folks who are living in the Santa Cruz area, the Bay Area. So if
Correct.
people go to yourcoachcamille.com, you'll actually do remote sessions with people.
Yes. And I also offer a free 30-minute mini session for people who just want to see if I can help them, see if we're a good fit, because everybody has a different style. And I think that's a
Definitely.
really important experience to have.
And I think I couldn't agree more with you, but I do understand why you would be such a powerful agent for helping men get unstuck from some of these places. And clearly that's a wonderful place to be. Sometimes, a coach, and by the way, let me just say, I've got a lot of coaches that are in my life, all different sorts. And many times a coach to me it can be way more effective than a therapist or a counselor or something like that. To me, they're different modalities, really.
Right.
The coaching part, the encouraging part, that a coach brings to the table here. I can certainly see why your practice is growing the way that it is. And I'm really grateful that you, like I said, I want to end the podcast in the same way that I kind of started the podcast. I'm really grateful that you've been able to take these experiences, hard as they are, and make that lemonade. You have really, really done a good job of that. I know it's a journey and it's every day and it's not perfect. I'm not putting you on a pedestal, but boy, taking a problem and literally turning the problem into solutions for others is a very admirable way that you have directed your life, Camille.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really do love what I do. And I just want to be able to help people figure out how to do it for themselves too. So when you coach with me, I'm going to show you the tools so you can use them and help yourself throughout your life. If you want to.
Yeah, well, oh man, like there you go, right? Like, how about identify, do you want to stay stuck? Do you want to stay miserable? Do you want to stay? Ask yourself that question. What a great question to ask yourself, right? To ponder that stuff. Is the best way to access you through the website, or do you do the social media thing? What's the best way if somebody wants to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, but really if you go to my website, you can email me, you can reach out to me, you can call me if you wanted to. Everything is right there. So
So
Very simple.
yourcoachcamille.com. That's the hub that you can find all your stuff.
That's
And
right.
as we kind of circle into your first appearance on heCast, as He Changed It grows, I mean, gosh, we need all sorts of resources, all sorts of stuff. It's an all hands on deck situation where where men are at. If we want to start changing the ship, where we need a lot of people to help with that. So as you advance, please stay in contact with us. And if you have any insights or any other things, I'd love to have you back on the show. You're fantastic. You've given a whole bunch of things whole bunch of food for a whole bunch of thought for all of us out there. So thank you so much, Camille. It's been a lot of fun today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm super glad to hear that. That's why we do the show. I say that every single time because that's why we do the show. That's why I say it. We do the show. We do the show because we want to have conversations around this, and we want to help people get unstuck. That's what we want to do. If you haven't downloaded the He Changed It app yet, what the heck are you waiting for? If you want to see what everything's all about, go to hechangedit.com, or you can go to wechangedit.com and see what the she changed it, and the they changed it, all of going on in all of those areas as well. This has been another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.